you need that fishing every day. And that's what makes me good or better at catching world records, because I'm on the water a lot. I know what the fish, where they're at and what they're going to be doing. And I'm able to say, all right, this is, the conditions are going to stack up right today. We're going to get fish on the surface where we can see them, and it's going to be calm enough to go far enough. And so I think, learning how to fish, number one, is the first thing. And then you kind of go into it. You catch a very good fish on, say, 12-pound test or 12-pound tippet, and then that builds you up a little bit. Oh my God, I can do that. Like somebody catching a 100-pound tarpon on 12-pound, they can do it. And it's hard to believe you could do that with a 12-inch shock tipping and everything, but it's so doable. And so once they get, to that level, it's like playing a video game. Then it's like they can go to, well, why don't we try that on 8? Well, I just lost 6. I know. Yeah, but you can do it. Hey, I'm Robert Trosset, and this is a Tom Rowland podcast.
This is episode number 26 with Captain Robert Trosset. This guy's a stud. 238 world records. He has done everything from catching bonefish to blue marlin, the Florida Keys to worldwide. The guy has been everywhere, done everything. And you know what? He has a remarkable attitude. Very humble, very thankful, very grateful. RT is a good friend. Been a good friend for a long time, and it was an honor to sit down with him, pick his brain about how he got started, how he's done all of these things, and where he is going. So stay tuned for Robert Trosset. Some call him the King of Key West, and that's probably just about exactly what he is. Anyway, thanks for the podcast at Saltwater Experience emails. More and more good suggestions coming in. Really appreciate it. Send one. Test it out. See if I respond. I will. I promise. Also, we have been getting more and more reviews and ratings on iTunes. I really appreciate it. Let's read one of these. Best Outdoor Podcast with 5 stars. JTM Esquire puts this one in. Great content. Interesting variety of guests. Well done in every aspect. Let's get the End of the Blue Boys on there. They are definitely on the list, man. Steve Roger, Scott Walker. Scott Walker is delivering a boat to Maryland right now. Steve Roger is busy with his family right now, but they are definitely on the list, and I will definitely get those guys on there because both of them have very interesting stories and entertaining as well. This episode is brought to you by Waypoint TV. Waypoint TV has a lot of momentum right now, and that is because it's simply an awesome way to watch the kind of content that you want to watch, and that is obviously hunting and fishing. If you're here, there's stuff over on Waypoint that you're going to like. More than 60, probably, man, it must be about 70 or even 80 different producers now putting their content over on Waypoint. New producers that have never put out a television show are putting out exclusive Waypoint content right now. It's up there. You can go check it out. That is very exciting because it's a brave new world. People are putting up all digital series. And I think that's really cool. All of our stuff's there. You can see all of the Saltwater Experience shows, all of the End of the Blue shows, all of the Sweetwater shows, as well as premium outdoor content from hunting and fishing producers. All you got to do is go to your browser, type in waypointtv.com, and you can use it like a regular website, or you can get the app on your smart TV, on your Apple TV, on your Roku. You can watch this sitting on your couch just like you did before you cut the cable. And if you cut the cable and you're missing your outdoor programming, you don't have to wait any longer. Check it out. Go to waypointtv.com, and I think you're really going to like what you find there. So now, without any further news or readings or anything else, I'm going to sit down with my good friend Robert Trosset and ask him a lot of the questions that a lot of people want to ask him. How do you set a world record? What do you do? How have you done it 238 times? Well, all those answers coming your way right now with Robert Trosset. So RT Trosset, what are you doing, man? Thanks for sitting down and doing this. I appreciate it.
It's great being here. Just coming up for the ICAST, as you know, and
Yeah,
going to work over in the Zepco Brands booth and try to push some tackle.
you've been working for them for a while, right?
Yeah, I think about 16 years.
16 years. That's a good relationship.
Yeah, it is.
And you come to this show every year, right?
Yep.
It's quite a circus sometimes. But
Well, it's where everything's made and done at, I think.
That's right. That's right. But it is a good time to see old friends and just get reacquainted with everything, and then see whatever kind of crazy trends are going on in the industry.
Yeah, I do use it a lot to see old friends. It's great. You see the same people every year that you really don't get to see. So
Yeah.
it's real cool. Keep some contacts alive. And
Yeah. So for people that may not know you, you are IGFA Hall of Famer.
it's actually, dang it, it's a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Lifetime Achievement.
Right.
Okay. And that is because you have over 200 world records? How many world records
I have
do you have?
238 at this time.
238.
Yes.
Because when I was doing a little research for this on the internet, the internet hasn't kept up with your recent accomplishments.
No, they hit well.
I saw 207.
Right. It's grown since Fishing with Fitz and Dottie, as you know, they did a lot for me, you know,
Yeah.
because they wanted to do that. So
Mhm.
you got to have somebody that's willing to go out and fish 4-pound tippet or even 2-pound or
I know.
whatever.
I know. The world records are interesting. It's an interesting little segment of the fishing. A lot of people are just like, nah, not interested. Same with tournaments.
Yeah.
But I found, and I'd like to know what you think about it, because you have done more. I mean, who has more records than you? Anybody?
I think Ralph Delph is in the same category
Right in there.
Yep. And
That had to be an interesting time when all you guys were working off. Were you working off the same dock? Were you at Oceanside?
yeah, we all worked
So
pretty much
So
same
who all
dock.
was there? Ralph Delph, Jose,
Kenny
Kenny
Harris. Bruce Cronin.
Bruce Cronin.
That was a few at the beginning. Bob Montgomery, of course, was
Yeah.
the first real light tackle sport fisherman I met, and probably helped me more in fishing in the Keys than anybody. Shoot, Bob, he got me started. I used to sell him. I worked at Start Over. I worked at Oceanside. It was called
Ocean's Edge now.
now
right?
it's Ocean's
Yeah.
Edge, yeah. But it's Kings Point Marina to begin with. And so I worked in the parts department when I first moved to Key West. I graduated from the University of Florida in 1974 and decided to move to Key West in 75 and got a job there. But I'd get Bob his parts, and Bob in turn, I made sure he had parts, and Bob in turn started slipping me a few charters on the side
Mm.
and got started. And then before I know it, I worked there about a year and took off on my own, thanks to Bob giving me some days. And he even hooked me up with Shakespeare tackle right off the bat. I was I got free tackle, and
Uh-huh.
it was pretty cool.
So did you go down there with a boat, or did you acquire a boat while you were there?
I went down with a 17 Mako, pulling behind my Delmont 88, and I had my chest of drawers tied to in the front.
That and probably that was not an uncommon sight going down the Keys in 1974.
I don't know. It's pretty uncommon. I know when I left my backyard, my dad was yelling at me, "I thought I sent you to college." So,
Was that a did he later come around, or did
oh yeah. The next year he was down fishing with me every couple of weekends.
Oh
so,
yeah.
yeah.
What was
So-
the scene like in 1974 in Key West?
Well, believe it or not, it was pretty competitive.
I do believe that.
We had the Met tournament going on in that time, and that was something you wanted to get into if you wanted to fish.
Mm-hmm.
The Rod and Reel Club members pretty much got up. Most of the Keys guys started. And then I fished people like Pat Ford and Scott Russell, and who I said gave me an education and paid me to do it
Yeah.
because they knew a lot about the Keys fishing already.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to go with them, and they had gone with other guides and kind of gave me a few ideas and actually showed me some things that were very essential to what I do.
Do you think most people have somebody like that, like a client that knows way more than than they do as a young, inexperienced guide. I know I did.
Oh, I think so. Especially on the flats.
Yeah.
Those guys, you get the spots and the tides, and that guy's not catching fish. He says, "Hey, we got to go over here."
Right.
Steve Huff took me there last week, or
yeah. And that was kind of always the thing that you shouldn't do, I guess, or that they didn't want to do, because
Right.
if Steve Huff all of a sudden pulled up and like,
I'm in
there go your
trouble.
days for next year.
Well, yeah, but it was one of, like in Islamorada, they had a bunch of really good courtesy, because like if you were on Billy Knowles' flat,
Yeah.
you left.
Yeah.
If he was pulling up, you just, oh, we're not fishing here today. And
Yeah.
same thing with Hank Brown and
Rob Fordyce, of course.
yeah, and Craig Brewer's dad. All those guys were legends down.
Yeah. And then there was the group of anglers. Like for me, my first year as a guide, I got hooked up somehow with Fitz Coker. I was so nervous. Oh my God, I was so nervous because I could barely find my way to Turtle Channel, much less go where, and he's been fishing with Jose, Marshall Cutchin, everybody. He really helped me in a way that it's hard to explain. He wouldn't say, let's go over to Jose's spot. He would just stay quiet. We'd fish wherever, and he knew there weren't any fish there, and he would say, well, what do you think? And I knew that was I knew that was bad. I knew I was in the wrong place. I think we should go look for somewhere else. All right. He was such a good person for me to fish with. And then later when I started the Redbone tournaments, fishing people like Mitch Howell, Cal Blumberg, those guys, they knew way more. And that's what got me into the bait fishing, because I started as a trying to do it all on fly.
They're legendary doing that stuff. I mean, they've fished with all the good guides, and they've already honed their routine. They know how to hook the fish already. You don't have to go through that whole scenario.
Right.
They were really good at that. I had some people, Bill and Gene Duval, that fished with me a lot in early times.
Yeah.
And shoot, they were just, gung ho, get as many days as they could, and they wanted to catch world records.
Yeah.
One of the big tips that I got from them is they kept a index card file full of numbers, as Fitz does, of all the records, what time, and they were up to date.
Really? Like where they caught them, what the tide was?
Well, no, it was more what was just right now.
Okay.
What the record was and what pound test line it was on. And then we'd have on a guideline. All right, what's by, what time of year is it? And it'd be okay. We've got a shot at cobias today, kingfish. Maybe some big mangroves will show up, snappers, or jack crevalles could come around. So then we'd take 4 or 5, 6 rods, and we'd rig them appropriately. The smallest fish here is 18-pound jack on, say back then it was 12-pound tippet fly. So we'd have a rod rigged up for that. We'd also know that the 12-pound cobia was accessible for women, so they could share the rod back and forth.
Right.
And we would have literally 12, 14 rods set up for different fish that we knew if we saw that fish swam up, grab that rod. If you hook it, it's a world record.
And then when you were doing that, you would fish for them with for like a week, because that's an awful lot of preparation for a day or two. Or would you fish for them? For a week?
We'd fish sometimes 4 days to a week.
Yeah.
We did a lot of mothership trips to the Tortugas, to where we had way better opportunity to find bigger fish. The same with Dottie and Fitz. I mean, we'd fish 1 or 2 days in a row, and we had it planned, and I'll tell you wouldn't believe how many times it works out. Yeah. Instead of just, we better rig this up, and the fish is swimming around the boat, and then he's gone,
Yeah. I remember there was one time, I think it might have been a Redbone tournament or some sort of Keys deal, and you gave away a trip for you. They auctioned it off, and it was, I can't remember I think you guaranteed somebody a world record.
That was IGFA had donated that, so yeah.
And you guaranteed a world record. And I just, as a young guide, I was just thinking, this guy is living in a different galaxy, because how do you guarantee a world record? But then, when you get into it, you start to see that you probably could, if you had the knowledge of all of these different fish, and what time of year it is, what the skill level of the angler is, and you're prepared, you could probably run into a fish that would classify itself as a world record if you could catch it.
Yeah, well, this guy bought the trip. I think I gave away, he had 5 days, but I guaranteed a world record. No, I guarantee you a record in 3 days, and I'd fish you 2 more days if I didn't get you that record. Well, we ended up going fishing, and we caught that fish in about, I think it was 11 o'clock in the morning of the first day. And it was a 200 or maybe I forgot exactly, 200 to 300 pound bull shark on 30-pound test.
Wow.
He liked that. And we only fished, he fished the next day, and then they had celebrated so much, I think, that they didn't care about fishing anymore.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it.
So the record pursuit for you grew out of the Met tournament, because the Met tournament was kind of similar. Like there were line class and you were after certain fish, and then that was kind of a big thing in South Florida, right?
Right. And then Rod and Reel Club, tropical anglers, but mostly the Rod and Reel Club would fish their parameters and their tackle, which was similar to world record fishing.
Mm-hmm.
They would categorize it in spin or conventional or plug.
No fly.
Where the IGFA doesn't care. Yeah, they had fly to them.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Where the IGFA doesn't, if you catch it on just line class.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd do fly.
Yeah.
The club fishing bred into while you were club fishing, you were catching fish for the Met, which had line class divisions and everything like that.
Right.
And then in the meantime of that, then you started thinking, well, there could be a world record here. And at first, before we did figure out some of that stuff, it was happenstancely, oh my God, I just caught a 65-pound king on 12-pound test.
Yeah.
We better check to see if that's a record.
Right.
Instead of doing, your research and then going after that fish.
Now, how many times in the early days of your record pursuit do you catch a fish like that and you're not fishing the right tackle? And when I say, for people that aren't familiar with world records, there is a very precise recipe for what you have to do. The IGFA has certain rules. You have to have a certain length leader with fly. You can have a certain length shock tippet. You can have all of this stuff. There are rules. Only one person can touch the rod, on and on down the line. There's a very precise recipe for what will qualify for a world record. The line has to test a certain way. You have to send that line in. How many of these early days kind of things didn't work out, like world records that didn't?
You'd lose quite a few because most of the time your anglers weren't really what I wouldn't let them use, or not wouldn't let them use. I'd load the reels with, line that said 12-pound test, but it broke at 15.
Right.
So, yeah, we've had a few go bad. I'd say at least 20, 25 fish.
Yeah.
And then catching fish too, even though you're prepared and you tried and your line doesn't test, that's another thing. So now, the line gets tested before it even goes on the boat.
Right.
You send it off and make sure it's going to work. So you buy them a little bulk spool. That's a good way to do that part.
Yeah. And the IGFA will do that for you?
Yes, they'll test it.
And now at early days, you're killing all those fish, right?
Right.
Like bringing them back. And then now there are ways that you can release them. Have you done some successful world record releases?
We have. One of the easier ones to release is Big Permit.
Mm-hmm.
You can put them in your bait wells and you can't harm them.
Yeah.
I know Ralph Delph brought a lemon shark, a big one, and he released that one. And, I'm a proponent of getting the proper weights and stuff, but, some of these weights have gotten to be, you can have a scale of yours and then you're the weighmaster with somebody else and you can take it to a tree. You have to at least be on something dry land, which is good. But I don't know. I like the old way. Really, if you want to get a world record, you kill it. And
everybody measures on a certified scale. And yeah.
You got a state certified scale that, you can use.
Yeah.
A lot of guys have bought the electronic scales and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Although I see mainstay of the world record fishing down here in the Keys is it's slowed down a little bit. Just don't have quite the enthusiasm in it.
Why do you think that is?
I think because we've lost the Miami Rod and Reel Club, and we don't have the Met tournament anymore. That newer people are just out there. We got braid, and they're just whaling on fish, catching everything you hook.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no, and they don't want, and time. They don't want to put the time into it because you may go 3, 4, 5, 6 trips. Spend $10,000-$12,000, never catch one, and then all of a sudden you go catch 2 or you catch 5.
Right.
So it happens.
Do you think that I don't really like comparing the 70s to the 90s to now, but has that changed in your opinion like that because the fishing was just that much better in the 70s, 80s, 90s than it is today? Because everybody, you would pull up someplace, there's 40 cobia on the surface. Sure, you can catch all of them if you want, but let's try it on this pound test. Or we caught so many yesterday. Let's have a little bit more of a challenge. Was that part of it, or
I think it's a big part of it. I mean, when you have 50 fish to pick from, it's a lot easier than when 3 or 4 swim up.
Yeah.
And then, so you're going to have a much more diverse group of fish. One, for instance, fishing this guy, Herb Ratner.
Yeah.
He got a bunch of my records, yeah. And we wanted a 4-pound kingfish record. And we fished and we fished and we fished. I mean, we hooked 84 kingfish on 4-pound tests. And that's what we caught, the 84th. One thing I noticed, the fish would run, and then when he would shift gears, the line would break every time.
Yep.
And we found these fish one day, and the water was colder than they should have been in, and we caught a couple on jigs. And I said, "These things ain't fighting so hard." And so I grabbed the 4-pound. I said, he made a nice cast, quick cast, and we got one on. There it was, 12 pounds, 12 ounces.
Wow.
But 84 tries.
Wow.
So that's patience. I mean, that's 84 liters you got to tie.
I know. That's what I was going to say, is it's not just, oh, I just broke off this deal. Now you got to tie and be confident in the knots, and be confident in the length of the whole. I mean, there's measuring, there's everything that goes into setting up a world record leader. It's not just like tying on another fly.
Yeah. And that to make it clear, that wasn't in one day. That's 6 or 8 days of
right.
Trying to fish for them.
Well, that's what I think
but it might have been in 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the romantic idea of how a world record is set. There's a lot of hard work that gets put into it, and you're looking for this particular fish, and there's failure. There's a lot of failure. And you've got to have that one guy. But in your case, you're fishing everything in the Keys, flats to offshore, everything. So you have all of these records available to you. As the wind blows, as conditions change, that same guy might not be out there waiting for that 12-pound kingfish. You might try a shark, or might try a barracuda, or whatever, another record, right?
Yeah, a lot of times we have this is our main fish to go for, but we know we got this to back it up. We go tease a barracuda up even, right near the Marquesas or something like that, and be able to catch them on night tackle.
So how do you think, when you look back, you're one of the most accomplished guides to ever be in the Florida Keys, in my opinion. How do you think this pursuit of these world records helps you to mature and grow and learn as a fishing guide, as a fisherman, as somebody do you think that if you were just out there fishing for whatever was biting with all of your customers, as opposed to going for these world records, that you would have as much knowledge about the fishery as you do now?
No. You need that fishing every day. And that's what makes me good or better at catching world records, because I'm on the water a lot. I know what the fish, where they're at and what they're going to be doing. And I'm able to say, all right, this is, the conditions are going to stack up right today. We're going to get fish on the surface where we can see them. And it's going to be calm enough to go far enough. And so I think, learning how to fish, number one, is the first thing. And then you kind of go into it. You catch a very good fish on, say, 12-pound test or 12-pound tippet. And then that builds you up a little bit. Oh, my God, I can do that. Like somebody catching a 100-pound tarpon on 12-pound, they can do it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe you could do that with a 12-inch shock tipping and everything, but it's so doable.
Yeah.
And so once they get, to that level, it's like playing a video game. Then it's like they can go to, well, why don't we try that on 8? Well, I just lost 6. I know. Yeah, but you can do it. And so that I guess makes it better. You build it up.
Yeah.
Or you can build into it.
Yeah. What I found for both the tournaments and the world records and, really those things, is like, if I would just go out on a charter and the weather's great for tarpon today, so you're going to go tarpon fishing. The wind blows a little, let's go permit fishing. Let's do whatever. Your client comes and he says, I want to catch something, and so you go for that. And the only thing that is steering you in any direction is whatever your customers are asking for, right? But you can always talk them out of it kind of a little bit. Like if for whatever reason it's blowing really, really hard and you think the water's going to be all murky and it's not going to be good for tarpon on the ocean side, or the waves are going to be coming over the bow and they want to fly fish for tarpon on the ocean side, you can say, you know what, the conditions are really bad for that, but they're really good for permit fishing. So let's go try that. Okay. And maybe you catch one and they end up very happy. But if I continued to fish like that, of just kind of whichever way the wind blows and just going for the best thing, what I found is that I wasn't growing much as a fishing guide. And when I started to get into the tournaments, I may be on a great tarpon bite, but the tournament is redfish and bonefish. So it doesn't matter how many tarpon I catch. They don't even count. You're not even fishing for those at that time. And maybe my general year schedule would be, I'm going to go for the big tarpon, at this particular time of the year, and then the little tarpon after that. And I'm not even thinking about redfish and bonefish. And then as you start to get into these tournaments, it's like, okay, there's going to be a starter's pistol that's going to say, go. And no matter what the conditions are, no matter what is happening, you're going to have to go for those particular fish. That helped me to get better very, very, very quickly, like on steroids quickly. Because the other thing that was happening is you go to those tournaments and you're thinking, well, I've never caught more than 3 bonefish in a day. Nobody's going to do that. And somebody comes in with 17 or 18 or 25, or Timmy Carlisle, puts up a monster 35 bonefish day. You've never even heard of anybody doing that. He did it. He's got pictures of every single one of them. It's legit, right? And then you're kind of like, wow, there are possibilities that I didn't know about, because on a regular day, Timmy Carlisle would come back to the dock and quietly put his boat on the trailer and not say a word to anybody, and he's got 35 bonefish when everybody else caught 1, 2, And then these tournaments would allow you to see into that quiet guy.
Yeah, he's amazing. I got to fish with him a couple times, and we slammed 3 times in a row. I mean, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah,
and it's just, what are you going over? Where are you going? Shh, this is a pretty good spot. Turn your back. Here comes bonefish right around the corner. I mean, there's no bonefish here, so yeah, it's. When you have to do it, you learn quick.
Yeah, and then you get to see what everybody else is doing. But for the world records too, I found that not just world records, but even like the Key West Fishing Tournament, which is a very, very casual, family-oriented kind of, very casual. It's certainly not world records. It's certainly not super competitive. But what it does is that there are all these fish are available. You can catch them on all these different ways, and if you catch something, you can enter it. Your customer gets a little certificate or whatever, and they're super happy. I used it for my kids to get them involved, because not every day are you going to be able to go out there and get the super glamour species. But when you can go with the kids and look through the book and be like, look, ladyfish, look, it's vacant. Nobody's caught any this year. Let's go out and catch every one of the ladyfish records. Then the kid was so excited. My kids were just super excited. Like the ladyfish all of a sudden was the glamour species, And that's what I thought was going on with the world records in that pursuit, is that, most days you'd be after something really big, but today you're looking for this 8-pound Jack Crevalle, and you're looking for it in a situation where it's not in a school, because they're going to get, every time you hook one, another one breaks the fish off, right? You're looking for it, like Fitz and Dottie and I went out and we caught one of our Jack records, and I specifically looked for it on the back of a ray. And I was on the Lavina Bank, and they were just, every ray had a Jack on the back of it. Like, this looks like a perfect place. Like, there's nothing to catch the line. There's only one fish on the back of these rays. We'll just pull down through here, and all she's got to do is land it. We're not going to worry about another fish. But to be thinking in those ways of, okay, an 8-pound jack is not a crazy sized fish, but I need to find it in this situation, which as a guide made me kind of expand. And I'm sure that that has happened with all of these 238 world records. Your knowledge has to be continually expanding because it's not just about catching a 12-pound kingfish. It's about catching it in a certain way, or that day that they're not fighting very well and 84 attempts. I find that to be really interesting about how that process just helps you to grow and get more experience.
Yeah, we did similar with the jack, and we were looking for a 2-pound tippet.
Yeah.
I think it had to be 3 pounds. I mean, we went 20 without getting. We finally caught one. I mean, you thought we caught the biggest, like we got a 1,000-pound blue marlin. It was,
Right.
High fives and everything all around. But that's why you do it. That's why you do it on light tackle. It's exceedingly difficult.
Yeah. And then you throw in there on fly, on spin, on plug. All of that stuff is making it difficult on purpose. Like, it's nothing to catch a 3-pound jack. Most people catch a 3-pound jack on 20-pound and they don't even want it. But all of a sudden, that fish, like a lot of people, I think may think, and I've heard people say that tournament fishermen and world records don't have any respect for the fish, but I think it's the other way around. Like, you have ultimate respect for the fish. Now your whole day in this whole expensive process of going out there is in pursuit of a 3-pound jack, and when you catch it, it's the greatest thing in the world.
Well, it's a record. Nobody else has done it.
Right.
And so that's a good point. My boys both grew up in that Key West fishing tournament atmosphere also, and that really gave them knowledge of how to use each type of tackle, and then the skill to put it to use, and then see how the fly rod was better for a jack or catching a big amberjack teased up rather than just casting into aimlessly casting like you would sometimes with a spinning rod or something like that when you're blind fishing. So
Yeah.
they would learn each situation.
When you were raising your boys, did you steer them towards any particular type of tackle, or did they gravitate to any particular type of tackle?
Yeah. When Chris was born, I guess he was maybe a year and 2 years old, I gave him a spinning reel as a toy.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time he was no time, he would use that thing like it was supposed to be used. And the first day he started fishing with it, I just watched him open the bail and just start pulling the line out, free drifting for a snapper in the canal. And I just said, well, that's built in.
Poor snappers.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much with him, poor fish. But I don't think they gravitated towards anything. It was like, we go troll, they'd use conventional reels. If we go live bait fish, most of the time we do spinning reels. If we flats fish, they would use their spinning reels.
Mm-hmm.
And it took them a while to get into fly. They always wanted to do it, but it took that learning curve so you could actually cast and catch a fish.
Yeah.
As you know, most people that start out fly fishing, it's a very difficult road to go on.
Mm-hmm.
Because first you got to be able to First, you got to be able to see the fish on the flats. Then you got to be able to present the fly. Then you got to learn how to feed the fish. Once the fish eats, then you got to know what he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
A bonefish will rip off real fast, or a tarpon may jump right at you and then rip off around. So, or a permit, he's going to subtle bite. I think the fly fishing, you really got to build into it. Once you get good at it, it's probably one of the best ways to catch a fish. I mean, especially a flats fish.
Yeah. There has been a major influx of anglers that start all of this fishing as fly fishing, and don't use any of the other types of bait of tackle or anything else. I was one of those. Like, I came from Rocky Mountain Trout Guide down to the Keys, and I'm thinking I'm going to be able to do this on fly. That's what I want to do. And I encountered all of the situations that you're talking about. Well, first of all, I wasn't even able to see the fish. Secondly, I had never caught one before, and now I'm trying to catch it in one of the more difficult ways, I guess. But it's a lot of times it's not the more difficult way. You just don't know what the fish behavior is in order to make your fly look like what they would really like to eat. And I look back on it, I'm like, man, if I had started out, bait fishing, well, I don't know. I I didn't really have that opportunity because everybody I was hanging around with was a fly fishing guide, and they were all fly fishing guides because they had already done all this other stuff, right? I'm
Right.
coming in new, starting at fly, and it was a long, very difficult process. And then later, when I got into the tournaments, people like Cal Blumberg are showing me what the skill level of somebody the skill level that someone can have with a spinning rod,
And a
which
piece of
is,
bait.
yeah, I mean, man, I'm talking about throwing it 60 feet and having that shrimp land without a splash and right in front of a bonefish and hook it and catch every single one of them. And then I gained a lot of respect for that type of fishing because I realized, man, there is a lot that goes into it. And then as what you're doing, there's so much that goes into being able to find the bait, being able to keep the bait alive, being able to know where the bait is all the time, and the bait being, pilchards, thread fins, whatever kind of live fish that you're being able to catch. And that knowledge is just huge. And I think a while ago, a lot of people worked their way all the way up through that and said, fly fishing is just easier. I don't have to worry about any of that bait. I don't have to do any of this stuff. I go out there, I enjoy it. It's fun. And so what if I catch a few less? I don't have to do all this other stuff. But then now it's a different deal. Like people are just starting out fly fishing and they don't know anything about how to throw a cast net. They don't know anything about where the bait might be. They're just out there.
Get out there cold, doing it the hard way.
Very hard.
But, teaching or learning how to feed a fish is probably, I think, if you can feed them on something like a jig, or you can feed them on a flyer, or you can even feed them with the bait and watch a reaction, that gives you the next step. For instance, I did a lot of wreck fishing for permit, or I do a lot of wreck fishing for permit. And there you're going to get, we got a school now of 1,000 fish.
Yeah.
And I could take somebody there and, they could get a few follows and see that you pull the jig away, jig, and he won't eat it yet. And I said, now just drop it. And you drop the jig and the fish immediately eats it. And the fly, you can teach the same thing because you have so many interested fish instead of just that one that maybe got on edge or, when you threw the fly to them. So I think you could learn a lot from fishing on the the deeper water on the wrecks than you can, that you could learn more in 2 days of it than you can in 2 years of fly fishing on the flats.
Right.
So I think it's a good thing. And then you could take that back to your flats fishing and you can make more fish bite.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I don't know, over the years, I just feel like all the different rods, all the different techniques are just tools. They're just tools. You gotta be able to throw a spinning rod. You have to be able to troll a conventional rod. You have to be able to fly fish, and that's what's a little bit different, I think, in the Florida Keys, is that pretty much everybody can handle all the different types of tackle. You may have people that would prefer one over the other, but I think a lot of that goes into just the weather conditions, right? Like, some days are just not.
Some days you can't fish fly.
Right.
And one of my big things is fish and fly, and I learned from it early on, is that activity breeds activity. So if you're out in the deeper water, some days you don't start off fly fishing. You're just like, they ain't going to bite. They're barely biting a live bait or whatever. And then the more fish you catch, the more excited that school of fish gets. Say blackfin tuna, for instance, or little tunies or whatever. And then the more that are swimming around the boat. So it's hard to get a pure fly fisherman to just start off catching fish.
Right.
Oh, okay, I'll wait. Yeah. And I'm like, well, they may never bite because these conditions don't look right. And then all of a sudden they'll get to the point and I'm like, grab your fly rod.
Yeah.
And he hits the water and he gets the fish.
Right.
So knowing the conditions, and that way.
But you have to build it. Like you say, what did you say? Something breeds. Activity breeds activity. I say action brings action.
Yeah.
That's funny because but it's all about building that, a lot of those fish are down deep, and you're catching some, they're throwing up, they're eating the little scraps, they bite half the pilchard and then there's another half falling down. All of that stuff starts happening and then it becomes this whole feeding situation, and then they get closer and closer and then they start feeding, with less apprehension. And then eventually,
then they think of flies with live pilchards.
That's right. Lucky for us.
Yeah.
So, have you done? I know one of the things I thought was really cool when I was first starting out. I got every magazine I read every book. I watched every TV show. One of the best ones I ever saw was you going out to the shrimp boats and teasing up the. Well, I don't know if it was on the shrimp boats. I saw one where you're on a shrimp boats and doing the blackfin, and then another where you're teasing up the amberjacks.
Right.
And that teasing of the amberjacks just that blew me away because I'm a flats fisherman. I never went out there at that point in my career, and I had never seen that before. Just thought it was just amazing what you guys were doing with a blue runner, teasing those amberjacks up, and then just having these massive fish right there. That's pretty cool.
Well, one of those things is get it. You know, what I try to say is, to get an average angler an extraordinary shot. So to be able to get the fish into a position that an average angler can get a fly to, or a below average angler, that's where all these teasing things were developed. So we could get the fish so worked up that you could throw a cigarette butt in the water a lot of times and they would eat it. I mean, they just didn't know. And what was hit upon earlier, the quantity of fish made a big difference in that, because breeding action. If you have 30 amberjacks in that spot, they're going to come up a lot easier than if you're just trying to get one or two. And, you know, some of the spots back then, there'd be 100 amberjacks there.
Yeah.
And so it would just like touch the runner in the water and then light them on fire. They couldn't keep themselves from doing that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's a perfect example of that. So.
What do you think is your favorite, if you were to, either as a fisherman, what do you think your favorite situation, your favorite fish?
I still love throwing the fly at tarpon on flats. And I really like catching wahoos. That's a different breed of fish, especially when, you know, finding a quantity of them. And there's different ways that you can catch them that a lot of people don't know about. But I mean, it's like, if you want to catch them on live bait, you can catch them on live bait. If you want a high-speed troll for them, you can do that. Or if you can get them eating live baits and you can see one, you can actually chunk them to the boat and catch them on a fly rod, or you catch them on just a chunk of meat.
Wow.
Or whatever.
Wahoo on fly.
What most people don't realize about the wahoos is they travel in a school. I mean, they're usually, when you catch one, there's 30, 40, could be 100, and you never see that. And a wahoo swims on a flat plane mostly. He doesn't stack up. He will stack some, but, you know, when they're out feeding, there's one there, and then there's one 30 yards away, and there'll be another one, and they're just swimming around in a big giant. One turns, even though, and the other ones will turn, and so you can keep track of the school. But if you catch one, if you leave him in the water like a dolphin, you can keep catching them.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done the chunking. I've done, you know, a lot of the things that you're talking about with wahoo, but I've never just left one in the water like that.
Leave one in the water until you hook another one.
Wow.
And then take him out. And it works. So
interesting. We'll try that next time.
Yeah.
Do you have any differences between those are two fish that you like to do yourself? Do you have any fish or situations that you like to pursue with clients? Like, this is my favorite guiding situation. Does that change at all?
You know, I just like fishing so much. I don't mind catching mangrove snappers to grunts to blue marlin.
Yeah.
But I think the wreck fishing scenario is the one that I think amazes people the most. And they're sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm teasing them an amberjack, and they catch that, and then turn around and look, and the guy says, "Oh, there's a shark behind the boat." And I just grab a rod with a jig on it. I say, "Catch that cobia." You know, it's, you know, so it's pretty cool. You get and then you catch a big mangrove snappers or something.
Yeah. That's moving and action when you get on those spots. It's just, I mean, next thing you know, you've got 15 meticulously prepared rods, and now every one of them is
tore up and gone.
Tore up. And then you have a rigging party while they eat lunch.
Yep, we're going to eat lunch now.
What about traveling? Have you done much fishing travel?
Yep, I've done a lot of traveling. So I think that's the biggest part of my gaining knowledge, is getting knowledge from someone else. And so I've been all through the Caribbean, Bermuda, all through Florida. I've been through the Bahamas, been to Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, St. Thomas, the Azores.
Australia?
I've been in Australia.
Mm-hmm. The Barrier Reef, have you done that?
I did Barrier Reef. We did a 3-week mothership trip out there.
Hmm.
Got to fish waters that nobody had ever sport fished.
Yeah.
Big dogtooth tuna.
That's what I was going to ask you about, the dogtooth tuna. That fish just is scary to me. You take a tuna and how fast they are, and then you put this set of jaws in them that looks like they could eat anything in the ocean.
Ever since I saw my first one, I've wanted to catch one, and I got to go on this trip, and it's a funny story, but we're out there. There's 4 of us, and I got to go along the trip as a guest. And so we catch a big yellowfin, and then they catch a smaller dogtooth, and then they get a Sierra mackerel, I think they call them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rod goes off, and I'm going like, rod's just smoking. I'm telling my friend Buddy Sauer, I said, Buddy, take that rod. This is a big fish. Nope, it's your turn. You take it. So I fight the fish, catch it. So my very first dogtooth tuna was a world record, 163 and a half pounds on 30-pound test.
Wow.
And Buddy says, you're not fishing anymore. And I said, well, Buddy, it's 2.5 more weeks of fishing.
You could probably, on a trip like that, you could probably just say, okay, no problem. And then in a day and a half, they've caught so many fish that they're begging you to fish.
Yeah, we had a really great trip there. So, and we fished out at Willets Island, which is 390 miles from Cairns. And there's several barrier chains out there, and we got to go to this one spot. I mean, it just was, there was a weather station there and an island.
Wow.
And then there was like the Great Barrier Reef around that island. There wasn't as many marlin there, but the trevallies, giant trevallies, and just a species of snapper and everything. We had a really great trip.
What'd you think about the giant trevally?
That thing's a beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you catch some big ones?
Yeah, we caught some in the 60, 75-pound range.
Yeah, that's a real fish.
They're real fish. And they were so, out there, they were just never, you could catch them on anything.
Mm-hmm.
We were using just regular Florida deep jigs and casting poppers and whatever.
Do you think a 60-pound Jack Crevalle would fight better than a 60-pound trevally, or about even?
I think about even. Maybe the trevallies a little less.
A little less?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see. I've gone in a few places where there are trevally. I've been able to cast at some really big ones, but I've never caught a really big one. But you go to some of these places where you're catching trevallies that are 4 or 5 pounds. I thought they were kind of overrated because they weren't a whole lot better than a 4 or 5 pound Jack Crevalle. And if somebody in Florida caught a 4 or 5 pound Jack Crevalle, they were bone fishing and that thing swam up and ate the fly, they'd be disappointed, right?
Well, when you get up to that bigger size,
yeah,
they're just, they're big. So, and they get way bigger than Jack Crevalles.
Yeah.
And they can live on the edge of those reefs, and they can go deep, and they can cut you off and stuff. So.
Yeah. I saw a pretty good situation in Christmas Island where there were 2 really giant ones, probably around 100 pounds, going down this beach, and I ran down in front of them and made a couple of casts, and they came right up to the rod tip and didn't eat it. And then I got back out of the water, ran down this thing again, and got in front of them again, and I did that 2 or 3 times. And each time they would come right up to the end of the rod tip, and the fly's right there, and they would just swirl and just like throw a big wake. And then I'd get out and go down again, but never could catch them. But I tell you, that fish is scary. I mean, that's like a 100-pound Jack Crevalle swimming at you at full speed. And you're not sure what's going to happen.
Is
he interested in this fly or my knee?
Yeah, or should I? Yeah, or should I even set the hook if I do hook him?
Right.
Yeah.
So what entertains you these days? Are you still fishing as hard as you were? Are you spending some time other places?
Well, I am. I just got back from Bermuda, where I don't know if you heard, but I caught a 10-pound hogfish on fly.
Wow.
Which is probably what very best catch I've ever done. I mean, it's
so. How are you fishing for them to catch one on fly? Like
flats.
Oh, really?
2 to 3 foot of water,
sitting there on the flat.
I got 15 shots at fish, and finally hooked one.
Wow.
This guy, Ian Lindell over there, he probably knows more about them than anybody, and amazing. So
wow. So do you have the dorsal out of the water like
sometimes
a rooster fish?
Tail, sometimes they're in 2 or 3, 3 feet.
Yeah.
But I see them actually flip flopping on top.
Wow.
And it's funny because that big hog mouth,
I know,
they open it and press it into the sand never seen them do that.
Huh.
You know, they don't just nip a lot of times.
Yeah.
They'll open that mouth pretty wide, and they'll sense something and try to eat it. And they're not so spooky as when you cast, they'll just swim away, but you can back off and let him go back. And once he starts to feed, he'll turn red. And that's when we'd pull back up to him knowing he was relaxed and everything.
Super cool.
And finally, you get it. And you wanted him to see it fall like you would a permit.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much like a permit fly. It's like our early permit flies.
Mm-hmm.
They look like a crab and a shrimp.
Yeah.
Very heavily weighted. He finally, I'd move it and he'd move towards it, but he'd miss it, because he couldn't smell it. And one time I got a pull off, I saw the line move, but when I went, I was a little bit too late. Because you really have to be on top of what he was doing.
Yeah.
And finally, we were pulling off the flat and about done for the day. And this one just seemed mudding down. I threw it out in front of him and he missed it about 3 times and then boom. And he got it and he sucked it in and I just came tight real easy. And he was hooked really far down the throat, which was amazing. The way he fought, he ran out into the sand because you're fishing kind of right, these real shallow coral reefs.
Mm-hmm.
So he ran way out to the sand and then decided I'm going back to the reefs. So Ian had already started poling and he pulled us as far as he could get away from the reef. And now the fish is tugging back to the reef. He's getting close to the ledges and everything. I mean, these reefs are only that deep.
Yeah.
They're not out of the water, but they're 2 feet. And he said, I got him, don't worry. So it was a 10-pound tippet. We just keep poling. And finally the fish turns and he glid. He glid out. He followed the boat and just swimming like we were plating him away. And then we thought we're far enough and fought him and he fought real hard again. But that constant pressure, I think, pulling away from him made that fish swim away from the reef. And that guy knew it. I mean, he's caught 35. I think that was his 35th
really
out of his boat on fly.
So they're just, that's like a thing. They're
you
doing
do
it. That's like the early days of permit fishing, where people are like, oh no, I really caught one. I mean, not in the dorsal. I caught him right in the mouth.
I don't think there's many places in the world you can do it. I think Bermuda is probably one place that's been developed to do it.
Interesting.
To find that kind of water. But
that's cool. So the fly, does it need to be sitting stationary and
dead
still on the bottom? If you move it, he's not interested.
He's not interested.
So you want him to see it fall, and then he'll come over there and check it out. And
he'll find it. I don't know if his vision's bad because it seemed like they always were around it.
Huh.
And then they didn't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I love the way that you're saying that they'll swim away and then turn red again when they're ready to feed, because that sounds super cool.
Yeah, they go just white, same color as the sand, because it's beautiful clear water. And then he'll get on some grass or he'll just start, okay, that's whatever that was gone. It'll just turn back to red.
So now that he's pioneering this fishery, is he killing these fish?
No, everyone's
released.
And he puts them he's got a big well, and he puts them in the well and keeps them in there for a couple hours, letting them build up their strength,
and then releases them in the same area or a different area?
He takes them to deeper water so they're not stressed as much. But it's important for him, for those fish to live. So that's cool. I caught a female, and I did throw at one that was maybe 18 or 20 pounds. It was giant fish. And but I didn't get him.
That's cool to see a fishery be pioneered like that. And I'll bet you that now that he's figured out how to do it, and at first you're thinking there's probably only a few places in the world that this happens, but I bet there's more than we think.
Oh, yeah.
And now that it's a thing, that it can actually be done, somebody else is going to be like, I never even thrown at those things.
Yeah.
Because I've been to Christmas Island twice. The first time I went there, triggerfish everywhere. Nobody threw at them. Not one person threw at them.
I've been hearing about this.
And it was just not, no one was interested. Triggerfish, they don't bite. Okay. The second time I went there, now this is a thing, a full on, I only want to fish for trevally and triggerfish. That's what people would say. No bonefish, not interested in the bonefish anymore. And so, the first day I go out there, I'm like, okay, well, what do you throw? Like a permit fly or something? And pretty much a little crab. and you get their attention. There's nothing to getting their attention. They come right over to it. And then I just started just doing a long strip, just having that fly just moving along the bottom like that. And they would come down and they would pin it to the bottom, and I would just kind of come tight to them and then just set the hook like that, not like a hard set, but like just come tight and then just keep pulling, and it would just pull into their lip. And I caught 4 or 5 the first day. And
they fight hard too, right?
Real hard.
Yeah.
And then there's all these different kinds. They're beautiful. There's all different kind of colors and everything, and they make amazing pictures. But it was just interesting to me to see the difference between that first time that I went there 20 years ago. You fast forward 20 years, and now this is a full-on thing where there's a whole bunch of flies for these fish. There's all these techniques. There are guides that specialize in trigger fish. It became, and now there's 3 fish that you fish for there. Like there's bonefish, triggerfish, and trevally. And then the same thing is starting to happen with the milkfish, where the first time I went to Christmas Island is the first time I ever saw a milkfish. They don't bite, and you can fish for them all you want. And then I guess some of the Seychelles guides figured out that they like, I heard somebody cut up a green shoelace and put it on a hook and tied it to the end of the hook, and we're drifting that through these schools of milkfish, and they were getting a couple every now and then. Well, that just is like, well, if they bit that, then okay, now let's start tying some real flies for them, and that has become a thing. I've not been anywhere where
I've seen some pictures of people caught them.
Now those things got a motor.
I mean,
they are like a giant ladyfish with a tarpon tail. That's what it looks like to me. And I did hook one the last time I was in Christmas Island. I hooked one about as far away as that wall with a bonefish fly, and immediately it was over. I'm in waist deep water, so it wasn't a real high jump, but immediately that thing is over my head, jumping out of the water. I'm like, wow, that is a serious fish. Hits the water, takes off, takes all the line I've got, and then breaks me off. But I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for it. But that fish is amazing, and it's cool to see that pioneering. It'll be interesting to see if people start doing that hogfish.
Yeah, I hope to see.
Do you ever see them in the Keys like that?
Never.
The same kind of situation?
Shoot, I don't think I've ever killed one that big with my spear gun.
I know.
Let's catch one.
That's a really big one. That's one of those that's got that giant mouth. You see, that's a cool thing. So, what about the hunting? I know that you're doing a lot of hunting.
Yep, I've done a lot of fishing. 44 years, I guess, I've been guiding. So I've looked for another thing to do, and I get out hunting as much as I can. Starting in September, I kind of put the fishing rods away, and I'm headed off do my hunting. So,
what all do you hunt?
Well, I do hogs, deer, and turkey in Florida. And then this year I'm going elk hunting in New Mexico.
Oh,
that's just going to be cool.
That's supposed to be the Mecca.
And then I got this Midwest hunting for those giant whitetails, and got fortunate enough to kill a 158
wow
inch 300 pound plus deer last year. So now I've got family in Missouri, and we bought a house with my wife's parents with some acreage on it. We had like 85 acres, and then some more land came up, and I bought a little bit. Another 160 acres, so I'm all in this year.
Wow!
I'll probably.
Are you bow hunting as well as rifle hunting?
Mostly bow hunt.
Mostly
99%. Yeah.
Even with the hogs and everything.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. So, how much time are you spending in preparing these pieces of ground you've got?
It takes time. So, I'm not anything like what some of these other people do, but I've got help out there. So I get them to help do the food plots when I can't make it there. I'm going out in a week or 10 days. I forgot, but got to put up a dozen stands. That's going to take some time, and put the game cameras out, try to figure out on these new properties where the deer are moving. So,
yeah. It's a full-time job.
If you want it to be, it can be over a full-time job.
It really can. I mean, all of that, and especially in the different areas. Do you have those game cameras that'll send you the pictures to your phone?
With the property we have in Missouri, there's hardly any cell service anywhere in there.
Yeah.
But I'd have some in Florida, but I'm not that interested in Florida anymore. I'm waiting for my time to get out west.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you get a similar feeling from hunting as you do from fishing, or is it totally different for you?
No, I think it's pretty similar to getting a bite from something. If you get them in close enough, whether you shoot at them or not, it's kind of like you've accomplished what your whole day.
Mhm.
So, for instance, I've been going out to Midwest for 5 years, and I've shot 2 deer.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit picky, but still.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was going to be my next question. You're only shooting 2 deer not because you've only had 2 deer come by your stand, but because you're looking for particular size.
Right. I'm looking for a 160 plus buck,
Mhm.
and I shot that big one last year, but I passed up so many deer. But I love the fact that I want to wait for the bigger one,
Right.
and I like the fact that I fooled all those deer. They've got under me. They've gone by me. I could have shot them. I draw back on some just to practice
Mhm.
stealth and all that stuff like that.
Yep.
But it's really hard thing to do is to kill a big buck.
Yeah, it is.
To me, it's one of the hardest
And
things
to
I've
do
ever
it
done.
with a bow too.
Right.
That's you're decreasing your range substantially, and you got to get that thing right there. How much are you practicing with your bow?
I shoot right now I'm shooting about every day.
Yeah.
I'd always like to practice at 40 yards at least. And fortunately, I got space I could do it.
Yeah.
But when you go back to 30 or 25, which is ideally where you want to shoot them,
Mhm.
it gets to be a easier shot.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, I like the bow. I practice in my backyard. I like the practicing almost more than I like the hunting, but I end up practicing a lot more than I end up shooting deer. That's for sure.
yeah, well, I get about 15, 20 arrows in, and you get pretty tired.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
start wavering. So
What pound bow do you use?
I'm shooting 63 pounds.
Uh-huh.
It's a Hoyt carbon spider, which
Yeah,
is it's a nice light bow, real short,
yeah,
easy to use in the tree. I like the tree stand hunt. I'm really hadn't been much of a stalker ever. So,
yeah.
and
The
I'm the
tree
kind of
stand.
guy that I could sit there 6, 7, 8 hours. I can sit all day sometimes. And really, if there's any kind of activity, it keeps me occupied. I like it. I know
Yeah,
that it's one step away from the goal I'm trying to accomplish.
right. Just sitting there.
Yeah, because he at any time can pop out,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're hunting under the rut. So,
Do you do anything else in the tree stand? Read a book?
I I
Play with your phone?
I play Scrabble a little bit. That's about it. I try to stay on what I'm doing, but
I'm always afraid I'm gonna fall asleep in the tree stand.
I bought some that if you do, you're still okay.
Yeah, you got plenty of harnesses.
Yes.
You're strapped in.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you ever take other people, like clients or just friends, or do you keep hunting? Do you keep hunting as your personal thing? I mean, like you've made your living, your career as a fisherman. Now you're spending a lot more time hunting. Not that you haven't all along, but a lot of times I notice that people, when they get into hunting, that's personal. Like the fishing guides that get into hunting, they don't want to take anybody. This is their thing. Maybe with family, maybe with friends, but this is their thing. It's not a for pay kind of deal.
No, I don't take anybody for pay, but I do like to take all my charter fishing friends and stuff because we have some good lease acreage in Florida, and
Mm-hmm.
we have a little camp set up. And we all go up and have big bonfires and shoot hogs, and they appreciate it because they don't, living in the Keys, you don't get to see much trees or grass or
Right.
whatever. And when they get in the woods, it's a treat for them. So I try to keep that. And that's a good thing to do in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
Get a cold front buzz through. Hey, let's go. And, you take just because it's a 5-hour drive, you get,
Yeah.
just get up there and go hunting for a day, 2 days, and you go back
Wow.
in your fishing.
And what's the hog population like?
We got plenty of hogs.
Is it out of control?
No, it's not out of control. But, most people, we hate the hogs. They root up everything and everything. But, my house in Arcadia, we got a feeder in the front yard, and there's hogs there. They're probably sleeping under it right now. I left them this morning. They were standing down by there eating. So, I don't think they're out of control. If you do get too many, we pick on a few and keep it down. But
So I did this podcast with Robert Arrington, Deer Meat for Dinner. Do you know who he is?
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Guy's a character, and he's got some property, and he's constantly catching these small boars and cutting their nuts off,
Mhm.
making a boar a bar. Do you do that too?
I don't do that, but I've shot plenty of them. we shot a couple this year.
He was saying that it really, really made a huge difference in making that a food animal.
Yeah, oh, they are. You can't even, when you're cleaning one of them, I mean, your knife's slipping out of your hand with the fat that's on them.
Yeah. Before they're
better.
A bar.
Yeah. When they're a bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they just eat and don't do much.
Super good.
Yeah, super good.
Yeah.
I should do more of it, but there's a ton of guys in that Arcadia area where I'm at that do it all around you. There's, those
hogs end up on your property.
Yeah, they end up on your property a lot of times. I mean, and usually they'll cut tip of the ear, cut the tail off.
Yeah.
To kind of indicate, but you kind of know too, because instead of looking like a lean feral hog, these things look like a barrel.
Mm-hmm. Now, on your property out in the Midwest, do you have hogs there?
No hogs at all yet. So that was seen. They say there's some around.
Yeah,
we've seen a bear. That's
really,
yeah, that's kind of intimidating when
pretty
you only
big
bow
ones.
It was a big one, the one we saw, but
and that's in Missouri, did you say?
Yeah. Southwestern Missouri.
Southwestern. Wow. So that's black bear for sure.
Yeah, black bear. Oh, yeah.
And because I just drove with my son from all the way across the country to Montana, and he's a big reader. He reads all kinds of books, and he read the book The Revenant, and I watched the movie.
That's what I like it too. So.
I watched the movie. He read the book. Apparently, the book was a lot longer than the movie, but in the movie, they portrayed that all happened in the Rocky Mountains, and we're driving through South Dakota, and it's rolling, kind of hilly. There's some little cliffs and stuff, but he was saying, this is where, or he said, isn't it crazy that there used to be a bunch of grizzly bears right here? I'm looking around at the country. I'm like, really? Doesn't really seem like a grizzly bear kind of country from what I've seen grizzly bears in, which is more like Yellowstone National Park and those kind of areas. And he's like, yeah, this is where the Revenant was, this area, all in here. And man, there used to be grizzly bears all over those flatter areas too. And I guess we pushed them to the mountains, but they used to. I mean, at least that's what that book says. That's
Sure.
where that all happened. I don't think there would be any down that way, but yeah, when you're bow hunting and a bear is there, that is a little intimidating, because a black bear is still super strong. I mean, a lot of people I don't have a lot of fear of a black bear like I do of a grizzly bear. I mean, I have respect for both, but there's some fear with the grizzly bear.
You pucker up when you see them. See a fish in Alaska, but we had some bears on a piece of property we had a lease on in Florida, and I get in a stand and I see these heck of a noise coming at me, and here comes 3 bears. They came right to my stand. One circled around one way smelling it, the other circled the other way, and then the one just looked up straight at me.
Oh boy.
And I got my bow and I'm going like, go away, bear, yelling at it and everything.
Wow.
And it finally, they all moseyed off over there, and the one that just looked at me took a poop, and then he took off. So, I don't know.
He said, this is mine.
Yeah, this is my territory.
I'm going to let you be here today, but
I can tell you, I got out of stand before dark that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those, what size bears do you think those were?
A couple 100 pounds.
Yeah.
250s.
Plenty big. And
plenty big. Yeah.
All of a sudden, the 3 of them. What about coyotes up there?
Yeah, we got plenty of those. They're hard to hunt. I mean, they're smart.
They are super smart.
We got bobcats too. My wife was, and I've never seen them. We have the feeder in the front yard, and there's squirrels on it all the time. And she's seen twice in the last week a bobcat jump out from the woods, grab a squirrel, and go down it. And I've never seen a bobcat. You rarely see them in the woods, number one. And then to see them attack something is, that's pretty rare. But she saw it twice this week. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that becomes the easiest food around, I guess, right?
Yeah.
The feeder and all that activity, and they're
not paying attention. They're just
find a little place where they can hide. And when she saw it, did it kind of do the low crawl over and then leap?
It's hanging in the palmettos, and then it's close enough to the feeder that when a squirrel makes a little mistake, she said the one she saw beforehand was stealthy. It was down, crouched down. And
if she's seen it twice, I bet it happens
100
more times.
Yeah. Happens all the time.
That's what a lot of people are talking about. How many mountain lions that people are seeing all over the country, and one of the reasons I was listening to this Stephen Ranella podcast, and he was talking to a wildlife biologist, and he was saying one of the reasons why people are seeing more, or there are more reported cases of them, is because everybody has trail cameras now, and everybody has security cameras on their house, and so these mountain lions might have been coming through there for 100 years.
Oh yeah.
But now they're getting recorded on the cameras. It might be kind of the same deal, that those bobcats are eating squirrels
We just weren't
constantly.
watching.
You just now have a front row seat.
That's right. Well, we'll sit out on the porch at night and just watch the game come in. Or turkeys and
Yeah, I was going to ask
the
about
hogs
turkeys.
and occasionally a deer will sneak up in there. But
Do you hunt the turkeys?
I do hunt them some. It's not my favorite thing to do. I get so
people
into
get into them or not. It's kind of like permit fishing, I think. You have the guys that'll permit. Okay, I'll cast at one, but they're not that into it. Like a Fitz Coker or something. He's probably caught more permit than most people, but he doesn't really care much
Doesn't
about
care.
them. And then you have the other guys that just go all in. And the turkey hunters are similar. I have found that I really like turkey hunting a lot.
Well, I could understand. I mean, I just am still, I've spent all my time hunting the deer, and then
Yeah.
to take off in gobbler season in April is like,
Yeah, I know.
when you're guiding is a tough thing.
Yeah, that's a tough time of the year, but I find it to be fun. They're really smart.
Oh, they are.
Man, really smart. Or I'm really dumb. One or the other.
I think you got it right. It's a hard thing to do. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's like,
Yeah, I mean, it's just like fishing. It's just like fishing. Some days you go out there and you can catch a permit on fly in 15 minutes. Other days you can go for 50 days and not have one even acknowledge your fly. They acknowledge you. They take off as fast as they possibly can go.
right.
But I find turkey hunting's like that too. A lot of it is based upon the weather, and the weather. What that magic weather is. I'm not experienced enough yet to know exactly. Like, oh, today's gonna be a good day. I'm gonna go get one with my bow. Like, I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, you got to kind of just put the time in and keep watching until you figure out what makes them tick. I don't know it that well. I know my wife's uncles up in Missouri. They're, pros. It's like,
That's who you go with.
yeah,
You go with them.
yeah. We need to go here. I'm going like, okay, why do we go in here? Just this is a good ridge right here. Oh, I thought you wanted to be in the bottom. Well, sometimes we want to be in the bottom, but we need to be in the top this time.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, okay, you're the guide.
Yeah, that's good. That's the way a guide is. Everything always has a depends on the end of it. Like,
Well,
I thought we were trying to fish the incoming tide. Well, we are, but now we're on the outgoing tide.
So we got to do something. It's the fun thing about turkey hunting is it's something you can do with somebody else, because you could call for somebody and then that's fun too. And I like going with somebody else turkey hunting, maybe because they're better usually than me, so it helps me get one. But.
Yeah, that's what I like, going with my friend Graham Taylor, because I fished. I hunted this property for a long time, and then I have him come along and he peeks his head over the hill. He says, "There's 8 right there." I said, "Yeah, they're always there." And he goes, "Yeah, but this is perfect." I mean, he saw something in that situation that I had seen in that situation, and I hadn't seen the potential of what was about to happen. He's like, "Sit down right there," and he starts calling like more aggressively than I've ever heard anyone call. I don't have any confidence in this happening, because when I try to call that aggressively, it is bad news. I'm not a very good turkey caller. He's an amazingly good turkey caller, and it's just, he speaks their language. And he started hammering on that call, and all of a sudden, all 8 of those turkeys, they raise their head up, they look, and I'm like, "Yep, this is what I normally see." And they usually take off the other
Go
way.
the other way.
This time, they came running at full speed right at us, and I'm just like, man, I have a lot to learn about turkey hunting. I mean, I don't understand. Like, then I'll go with him another place, and everything is so quiet, and he'll barely be making a peep. But he saw something in that situation where he's like, "Man, it's time to raise the roof. We're
gonna get that.
It's going down right
Bring
now."
him to the hen house.
Yeah, and he did. But like you, I like to have somebody with me, because they're generally much better caller. Usually it's my son. He's a way better caller than me, and we managed to get some. But it's just, it makes it just hard enough that it starts to light that fire, get that obsession
Well,
going.
it's like throwing a crab at a permit or throwing a fly. It's just that much harder.
Right.
And that's what takes you to that next level, or to wanting to do that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So what about your sons now? And you've got kind of a family tradition going on with making a living in the fishing industry.
Yeah, I'm fortunate as heck. I got 2 boys. One's a diver and a spear fisherman, so he's got that side of the industry covered. And then that's Robert, and my oldest. And then Chris, he's just a phenomenal light tackle sport fisherman.
Yeah.
I always say I gave him all my spots, but he's done different things to make him his own.
Yeah.
He's I go fishing with him. I said, "What are you doing?" He's doing something totally different than what we had done, and he's having better success.
And do you think that's because the fishery's changed a little bit, or because he has learned a lot of things from you and a lot of things on his own, and he's adapting to these
I think
spots?
He's adapting. I mean, you adapt. That's what you do. And I think with less fish, we become better fishermen.
Yes.
So we've had to adapt through the stages.
Yeah.
Through the years. And I've been in the Keys for 44 years. You were down there how many?
Oh, it was probably about 18 years.
Yeah. So you've been through, no boats on the flats, to where every jet ski and every boat is run over your favorite spot.
Right.
And you still could fish it, but you got to tend to it a little differently. That's all.
You definitely have to tend to it a little differently.
A little earlier in the morning or whatever. But so both of them are doing great. They're got their own thriving businesses, and they're both really good at it. So I've been real proud of them.
Was there ever a time that you wondered if they were going to live in the Keys?
Yeah, there was, but
because it's a hard thing to do. It really is.
Robert wanted to go to college, and he went to South Florida and graduated. But he always wanted a business.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, he came back, to kind of regroup and everything like that. And they were selling a little tackle shop at the Hurricane Hole there. And I said, if you want to be in business, there it is. It's a little 10 by 10 shed, renting mask and fins and selling a little bit of scuba gear and stuff.
Yeah.
And so he did it. He went ahead and did it, and made it kind of a thriving little business.
I bet. Yeah, there's a lot of traffic there.
Even with a tackle shop upstairs and everything. And then about 2 years into it, the guy that owned the tackle shop at the Hurricane Holes wanted to get out. And, oh, man, he wants, it's too much money. I said, you want to be in business? You go get in business. So he figured out a way to buy the inventory and take over the tackle shop. And now he's got a thriving business. Really good place.
And does he have spearfishing guided trips, or does he do that too?
He does. He does all the local tourist type stuff, and then he does customized spearfishing trips and diving trips.
Does he have the little bar that drives around?
Oh no, that's not his yet. He might. Yeah, he should. He might have those.
I've seen a lot of talk about that. They're like, this is the worst idea I've ever seen in my life.
Guess what? They're killing it, though.
I'm sure they are. I am sure they are.
He's get back to his diving, but he's just purchased and getting built a 34 Freeman.
Oh, nice.
So he's going to do a lot of long range day diving trips like that.
Mm-hmm. Long range, like around the Tortugas, in that area,
out in the Rebecca channels, and where you can actually have a chance to go shoot some really big fish.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to be kind of a high end. Most divers are, they just like to go on that $120 dive or whatever. And this is going to be like going on a fishing charter, but it'll be. I'm
sure there's a market for that, because in all of the years that I was down there and guiding, you would have these people that would ask, oh, I want to do this on one of the days. I never knew who to send them to. I mean, I'm sure there were some people doing it, but not high profile.
Yeah, and they were doing it on 2-3 day trips,
right?
Because it takes time to get down there and stuff. Now he's gonna have a boat. You're 2 hours anywhere, and you can get your dives in and come back with a big stringer of fish.
Man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And then Chris, what's Robert's place called?
Finn's Dive Center.
Finn's Dive Center, and that's at the Hurricane Hole.
Right.
And then Chris is
Real Fly Charters.
Real Fly. Yeah, I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, he's pretty good on staying up on that. He's got a passion for swordfish, and he does it as well as anybody in Key West. Not as good as they do in Anamorado.
Yeah.
That stands it, because it's impossible to beat that guy.
I don't think he does anything else.
No,
I mean, he's
good
all
at it.
about it.
Yeah.
He is really all about the swordfish. That's interesting how that has changed. I mean, I remember my first experience with sword fishing was Kenny Harris saying, you got to go do this with me. It's super fun. I've got it all worked out. We go out there in the middle of the night. We got all the lights. We have this elaborate setup. And he wanted to take me in the middle of the tarpon season. So I'm waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm fishing all day, going again the next day. And I had been going for a long time. And Kenny wanted to take me nighttime sword fishing. And I'm already incredibly sleep deprived.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm just craving sleep like never in my life. And so I go out there all night with Kenny, and we don't catch any. And that was my first really and last nighttime sword fishing situation. But it was just the wrong time of the year for me. I needed sleep more than I needed to catch a swordfish.
Yeah.
And so we go out there. But I do have to admit that nighttime deal was incredible, because you get out there and the stars were just amazing.
Well, you see
and
the
you're
lights of
out
Cuba.
there. Yeah, you're out there in the middle of the ocean. And when we did it, it was very calm, very nice. And man, it's a little spooky. I
Yeah,
mean,
you have to be on your toes. And my first time we caught one,
yeah.
I was at a 20-foot sea craft, and
Wow.
that just got
What
me
year
going.
was that?
That was 1978, probably.
And so what happened to I know Scott Walker had a lot to do with some of the daytime sword fishing thing, but what happened? Because I don't hear anybody doing it at night anymore, because it was a pain in the ass. You're out there all night long. You got these huge lights. I mean, I guess people do that still
It's really fun. I mean, when you catch a fish or two
at night.
Yeah, but they're, you're not using the electric stuff. You can use like a 40 Marquesa or a 50 Marquesa on a 6-foot rod, and it's one-on-one, you're all hooked up. You're not just pushing a button.
Right.
Now, some of the guys have reels that you can take the motors off, and then you go into fighting them.
Mm-hmm.
Some guys have drills that have attachments for the handle, so you can fish a regular reel and then use and then catch the fish regularly. But it's like bottom fishing in 1,800 feet of water,
Right?
And it's fun. I mean, I remember our first trip. I took Robert. He just said, "I want to catch a big fish." I said, "Well, let's go try this." And people knew about it. I mean, it was getting done a bit, but I was dropping a concrete block for a weight.
Yeah.
And just doing it kind of all wrong, basically.
Yeah.
We were hooking fish,
But that was all done at night.
No, this is day.
Oh, that was day. So you were telling me about going and trying sword fishing all wrong. Concrete block. Taking Robert
and drop it. And at first we thought we wanted the weight to separate, so we had to find the right pound test.
Yeah. So
when you got it down there, that you could pull on it and break it where it didn't break going down. Well, the first thing about a concrete block is when it goes down, it goes at a angle. Whoa. So that didn't work out real good. But the first day we did catch a 380-pound thresher shark.
Wow.
That was an amazing fish. Well, actually, the first fish we hooked, we could not stop. And we got 100-pound braid, and we got a 50 wide. It's probably got 2,000 yards of it on there.
Yeah.
We hooked the fish. It just went straight offshore. I was on a plane, basically, maybe 12, 13 miles an hour, chasing the fish. And we went half a mile with him, and he got us finally down to the core of the reel, and I had to pull more pressure on him and popped him off. So we don't have no idea what that was. Fortunately, I had another rod.
Sea monster.
It was a sea monster, man. We went back and caught that thresher.
Had you seen many threshers?
I'd caught one in Massachusetts, a small one.
Yeah.
Which was a great fighting fish. And so we caught this one, and it was a massive fish.
Wow.
He was happy.
I bet.
He got the pull. So, and we were doing hand cranking back then. So
yeah. And that hand cranking, I mean, for something that takes 10, 15 minutes to hit the bottom with a concrete block or something equivalent.
It's about 4 or 5 minutes with a lead weight.
To hit the bottom. Yeah. And about 45 minutes to get it back up.
Oh, yeah, hand cranking. Well, you bring 2 or 3 kids with you.
Yeah.
And they sit there. they just start cranking. So
Yeah,
that was my method.
Yeah, bring 3 or 4 kids. Bring a few more.
Yeah, bring all your friends you want.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I really enjoyed the nighttime fishing. It's cool, and if you have the nights, we did it in the summer mostly.
Yeah.
So if you get some nice nights, you can go and get kind of dialed in, do it a couple nights in a row. But you don't have to wake up in the morning. But being sleep deprived like you,
right?
And that's why I don't do it anymore myself. I'm just getting old. Yeah. I don't want to go out all
So if
night.
you were to do it, do you feel like you have to have the lights and the whole rig?
Yeah, the lights help.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. We've actually had them up in the lights chasing flying fish, which I never thought you'd ever see. The flying fish will lay around in your lights with their wings, spread out.
Yeah.
And swordfish just comes, and I've seen him get a couple. Wow. And then my son Chris, it's quite some time ago, but he hooked one on fly.
Really?
That was probably in a 65-pound range.
And that's like that. Just flopping a fly out there in front of one.
He had him swimming through the light, and so he was stripping it, and the sword never paid a bit of attention to it. And I said, well, just stop it like it was one of those flying fish. And as soon as he stopped it, the fish made a big U-turn, came back around, went right up from underneath it.
Wow.
But as you know, with a billfish, they're going to take a tap at it with the bill and then go back. So when they tapped at it, he hit a little bit ahead of it, tip wrapped the fly, even though he ate it, tip wrapped the fly around the bill, and it's really sharp.
Yes.
And he got about a 30-yard run out of it and pulled it, and it busted him off.
Wow. One of the people that I'm going to have on the podcast is Bouncer Smith. Yeah. And one of his best catches, as far as I'm concerned, is with Martin or Rostigui.
Yeah.
Got a sword on fly. And
that's
I wanted
what made us think we could try to go.
Oh, really?
It. Yeah.
So. Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, what's really amazing about that is it's not like a sailfish on fly or something like that where you're trolling, you stop the boat, and then you flop this fly out there, and it's kind of fly fishing.
Right.
But that is actually, you're casting in front of this billfish that came from 2,000 feet of water.
Looking for food.
Yeah. And you get them to eat. That's plus catching, you can only use a 12-inch leader, shock tippet, and then that bill is 4 feet long. Right? I mean,
1/3 the length of the fish.
Yeah. I mean, even on the small swordfish, the bill is so incredibly long that's hitting all over the leader.
And one side is super sharp, but the other side is kind of duller.
Yeah.
If you've ever noticed that on them. But yeah, Martin's fish was a game changer.
Yeah.
And people tried. I don't think it gets tried enough.
Yeah.
But we always have a fly rod out whenever we're doing the nighttime.
Do you think that is it? That his fish was at night?
It was at night, yes. In fact, it was a blind. He had it just soaking, and it was a blind bite is what I heard. But you'll get that information straight from the
we'll see.
From the bouncer.
We'll see. He's an interesting guy. He's done a lot too. Oh, definitely a legend.
He is a legend. He has caught everything, done everything, and good at it. I had fished a guy from South Africa that was on the boat. There was a guy over there that had teased up some swordfish in about a 5-day period and set the 3 records that were set.
Wow.
And I fished a mate that had been on that boat. He was over here. He told me how they were doing it with a soft head and a strip and slow trolling on a deep troll with a clip. So when a swordfish would hit the trolled bait, it would troll real slow. It would come off the clip, and then the swordfish would follow the lighted soft head up, and they would tease it to the boat. And he said, really, anything they threw in the water, they ate.
Wow.
Just like you're teasing the sailfish.
That's cool.
Well, Skip Smith had started doing that about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but he was doing it just to catch big swordfish. And, they were teasing them up and baiting and switching them, and they had pretty good success rate at night doing that.
What about just having a hook on the slow trolled soft head?
You could, but they wanted to
see it.
They wanted to see him come up and feed them. So So a funny story about this guy from South Africa. He had he saw I tied flies, and he said, well, I've got these guinea fowls. I can get you all the pelts you want. They're beautiful, perfect fly, tie material. I said, well, send me a couple. So he stuffed some in a FedEx bag or whatever it was, they were tanned and salted nicely, and I get them, and I was just getting ready to go on vacation. I had them on the coffee table. I opened up. Wow, these are beautiful. Gray and black and white, and so I just laid them down. I said, "We're leaving for vacation tomorrow." And I forgot and left them there. Well, we were gone for about 7 days, and when I got back, there was a tick infestation in my house.
Oh,
They were
no.
crawling up the cracks of the walls, all in the carpet.
Oh.
Now, this are South African ticks. I'm like, so I'm on the phone with Orkin or somebody, and I get them to come over. Oh, we get rid of them. So they got ready. Said it's going to take us about a month to get rid of them. So they had to come in, kill all the ones there, come back, kill all the ones that were laid eggs, and then the ones that laid more eggs.
Wow.
So that was the scariest thing. I had no idea what the things carried or whatever like that.
Man, you just look on the walls and you see ticks
They were
everywhere.
going in the cracks. I mean, there was a line of them like ants.
That is a nightmare for me. That's one of the reasons that keeps me from being just totally obsessed with turkey hunting is because I don't know what it is, but if there's a tick out there, it's on me.
Yeah.
And immediately, I mean, I step out of the truck and I'm like, how did that happen so fast?
Missouri's the same way for me. I mean, it's just, I didn't realize there was, in Florida, we got a few ticks, but there are hardly any.
Compared to
Missouri,
Tennessee, that whole belt, that whole belt, I'm sure you can extend it out into Kansas too, probably Oklahoma, Kansas, all that too, that has just horrible ticks. But I mean, I don't know anything about that, but I can tell you from Missouri, Tennessee, the Carolinas, really, really bad. Luckily, I don't think that I've gotten Lyme disease. I usually don't get bit. I got a hair trigger on those things, man. I feel them crawling, and I know exactly what it is.
Yeah, you'll wake up, oh boy.
Getting that off of there. The time that I was going to get my son his first turkey, we saw all these birds, and we got in front of them, and I had them sitting up against a tree, and they're coming. I mean, they're coming. This is our best. I think to this day, it's still our best situation, best scenario. They're coming. There are big gobblers in with all these birds. And we're sitting up against this tree, and my son says, "Dad, I got ticks all over me." And I said, "Well, can you just wait like 5 minutes? And these birds are coming. I mean, this is what we've been waiting for." And I look down, and he's got them crawling all over him. They are all over him. And the birds are getting closer, and he's getting squirmier, and the birds are getting closer and closer and closer. And I'm like, it's going to happen in like a minute. If you can just hold off for a minute, you're going to have the biggest turkey on the whole property walk right up to you. And he just stood up, said, "I can't take it anymore. We got to get out of here." And he had hundreds. He sat in a nest or something. I don't know. There were hundreds.
I think they call it seed ticks. Yeah. They sit in big pods and they hold on to each other.
Yeah.
And then if you go by, they got little snares on them or grabs your hair, and just whole pod will just slide right onto you.
Well, that's what he got.
Yeah.
And it was all over him, and he just couldn't take it. I know. That's what I get chills going up and down my spine when I think about it, because it's just, I don't like ticks. No. I can handle all the mosquitoes you want to send my way, but ticks, I just don't really like them. So what's next for RT? You've got a incredible career in fishing. You're doing some amazing things in hunting. What's left that you want to do? Where's your passion these days?
Well, it's just been the hunting is taking over. So I want to get my hunting stuff in order and be able to go and do that successfully. Travel a little bit more with that. Mm-hmm. We are going to Argentina this year. With my wife's going to go actually shoot doves with me, and then we're going to do some
the dove shooting.
Yeah,
shit. Take a pad for your shoulder.
I've already bought. I got one ordered at Amazon.
I went get two. I'm not kidding, man. Yeah. If you like to shoot as much as I do, the first I went. Here's my story from Argentina. I went with my dad and my brother-in-law, and we went down there. I didn't really know what to expect. Just going down there, I was fishing all the time. Didn't do a lot of research on what to expect. I just said, "Dad's got this. I'm just along for the ride." And so I go down there, and each person is given a Bird Boy and 2 Benelli shotguns. And while you're shooting one, he's loading the other, and it is just incredible. I mean, the first day I went out, and he's also got like a doorman's
Counter.
ticker, like a counter. And good shot. Oh, good, senor. Nice shot. That's what they keep saying. The first day we got there late. We went out for a half day, and I think I shot 750. I was like, man, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
750. I'd never shot a shotgun that many times in a day.
Right.
So the next day, go out, shoot 1,500. And I'm like, wow, that's got to be some kind of record. That's amazing. Well, we went back to the lodge, and I started looking around, and every day they would give out stuff. They'd be like, oh, here's a 750 T-shirt, and it said, whatever lodge we were at, 750 doves. And I was like, ooh, that's nice. Then they give away something else, and then they had this leather shotgun case. It looked like a saddle. It was beautiful, and it said 3,000 Dove Club on it. I was like, man, I'm getting that thing. I want that. I really want that. So I decided tomorrow, shooting 3,000. My dad's just like, okay, because the deal is he paid for the trip, but I paid for the ammo.
Ooh.
And so that was great. And I didn't know what I was in for, but I wanted that shotgun case. So we went out there, and I did shoot 3,000 that day. And the next day I shot 6. 6 doves, because I was just so wiped out. But I thought at the time, I was like, man, 3,000 in a day, that's got to be some kind of record. And they had all these pictures on the wall there. And I started looking around, and here's a guy that shot 10,000. Here's a guy that shot 5,000, 7,000, 9,000.
Yeah.
And I go over to the biggest picture there. It's this guy, and he had shot 13,000 in a day. And he had 5 or 6 bird boys. They've got 5 or 6 guns. I mean, it was like an assembly line of just handing in these guns, and his shooting. So we started doing some math, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was pretty much from sun up to sundown. He had to be shooting a dove every 5 seconds all day long. And I'm telling you what, that is an endurance event.
That would be
It's an endurance event that at some point it's not even that much fun anymore. I mean, it turns into work, probably at about 4,000. I mean, all of a sudden it's work, and you're not even halfway there. But, for people that don't understand why you would do that and why it would be interesting to shoot 13,000 doves, these doves down there are completely out of control. And so hunters can come down there and shoot them, or they're going to poison them, because they just decimate.
Like 50 million in that one area alone.
And apparently they breed like 6 times a year. I mean, just an amazing amount, way more than our doves. They're like flying rats.
Well, I think with the prices of shells, I'm probably going to be shooting about 500 a day.
Yeah, and 500. Hey, listen, 500 is a wonderful day. That is the greatest dove hunt you could ever imagine in the United States, and it's constant. And you can start to be like, okay, well, I'm not very good at a going away shot, so I'm only going to take going away shots for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Or the one that I really like is I want to work on the high shot, and my guy kept saying, shoot, 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 and I'm looking up, and I'm like, that dove is way too far. And he's like, no, senor. He's like, just big lead. And so I would see them coming, and they'd be flying in a perfectly straight line, and I'd just take the shotgun and just go faster than them, and then boom, right there, you got to where you could get them so high. And I came back, and I thought I was the best shot. I know I was the best shot ever in my life, and I'm thinking, I've gotten really a lot better at shooting, which I did. But buddy, it goes away fast. It goes away fast. I mean, when you first come back, you will be able to shoot anything. You wait 6 months, and you'll be right back where you were.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Well, the traveling and all this stuff. I mean, I think that, I don't know, whatever it is that you're into for the next few years, they better watch out, because with your track record, you get stuff dialed in and get it mastered. I mean, that's what you do.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do with the deer now. So we'll see how it goes. I'll keep you informed.
All right. Well, I should come up there and go with you, or go hog hunting. I want to do that with my son. He's expressed much interest in doing that.
Well, we should do that. We do it in the wintertime sometime when it's nice out there and get the big campfires going.
Yeah. Well, let me know. We'll do it.
All right.
Well, thanks for this. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, man.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
All right.
Awesome.
We'll see you soon.
10-4.
Robert Trosset's done a lot of things, and he's got a lot more to do. Whether it's hunting or fishing, man, the guy is in tune with his world. Send me a podcast at Saltwater Experience email, podcast@saltwaterexperience.com. You can send me an email. Check it out. I'll answer that right away. And most people have been writing some incredibly nice emails. They have been giving me good suggestions on people that I can interview for future episodes, and I really appreciate that. That really helps to know who you want me to interview and what you want me to ask them. That's really cool. Really like that. You can hear all past episodes on iTunes by searching Tom Rowland Podcast there, or a real easy way that you can find all of the episodes is you can also go to saltwaterexperience.com/podcast, and that will get you to a place where you can see all of the episodes that we have produced right there. You can listen to any of them on your computer if you prefer, on your phone, iTunes or Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts, that's where you'll find us. Until next week, thanks so much. See ya.